Hey YouTube, Sandy Frank here. This week's episode of Hobby Talk, I wanted to talk about the Major League Baseball playoffs. And you might think, yeah, it's not really a hobby talk, Sandy Frank. That's more of just baseball talk. But I think it does affect the hobby. And the subject that I'm thinking of is the Major League Baseball playoff system broken. Now, I've been hearing some people talk about this, and I think there's some points to it. Now, I'm loving this year's playoffs because as a Rangers fan, my Rangers are getting hot at the exact right time. But this was a team that did not win their division. They led the division most of the year, and this last month it was just an all out war with Seattle and Houston to win this division. So those teams have kind of been playing playoff baseball every day for this past month. And what do you know? Two of the teams that are still alive, the teams in the AL Championship Series, Houston and Texas. The teams that had things wrapped up earlier, like Baltimore, the Orioles, the Tampa Bay Rays. I think particularly with Baltimore, I think with this, there's a the best of three wild card round, and all the teams that advanced besides Houston came from these wild card rounds, and the highly seeded teams like the Los Angeles Dodgers, the Atlanta Braves, Baltimore Orioles, teams that dominated this past season, and you know I don't know if they all won 100 games, but I know Orioles and Atlanta did, and the Dodgers are always way up there in wins. But with this 3-game wild card round, that's a long layoff for the teams that have the first round byes, and those teams were Baltimore Orioles, the Houston Astros, the Los Angeles Dodgers, and the Atlanta Braves. I hope I didn't say Falcons earlier, but and sure enough, those teams came out of the playoffs flat. And the only one that didn't come out flat was Houston, but like I said, they've been playing this elimination playoff baseball for this past month, with this American League West being just up for grabs game after game after game. This past month it felt like playoff games all month. And so those teams that were in these situations, trying to make the wild cards, I feel like they've been playing at a higher level. It's just natural. If you're fighting for your life game in, game out, or if you have everything clinched, it's a difference. It's a different mindset, and it's hard to get ratcheted all the way back up to top level baseball from being like, okay, we got everything wrapped up. We're just kind of taking it game by game, just get through the regular season and get to the playoffs. So I heard the Baltimore Orioles. Well, this was actually the national broadcasters, but they seemed like they really wanted Baltimore to move on when they were playing the Rangers. But their thought was that it's not fair that these higher seed teams have to sit and wait for the wild card round to be done, and that they're not in playoff mode or whatever. It is kind of weird. I don't like that there's buys, because I think teams do need to stay on edge. Like, you got to be in that game, each game means something mode, I think, once you get to playoffs. And if you've had everything wrapped up for the past 2 weeks or a month, and they're just kind of trying to keep people healthy for the playoffs, you're not playing at that higher level. And teams that are fighting for their lives to make the wild card, they've been in playoff mode for a month, and you're seeing it play out very much this year. Rangers they've swept through the Rays, swept through Baltimore. Now they're getting ready to play Houston. I think, is going to be a great ALCS. Um, but both those teams have been fighting it out for the last month, so that's going to be a great series. National League, you've got the Phillies. They advanced, and Arizona advanced. And again, the Braves and the Dodgers kind of had things wrapped up earlier. And while the Braves have been winning games like crazy during the last month of the season, um, they haven't had things on at stake. They've just been that good. But it's just a mindset of we have to win these games, and like teams like the Diamondbacks and teams like the Phillies, they've been in that mindset trying to make these wild cards. And plus that layoff of the 3-game series of the wild card round, that's a long time to sit and watch the other teams play and then have to be geared back into baseball mode. Baseball players, I think baseball teams, this is why they play every day. You got to keep it going. You got to keep that grind going. And then when you're basically shutting everything down for a week, I think it affects baseball players worse than it would like other sports. NFL, guys look forward to the bye week to get healthy, and there's only one game a week, so there's a lot of game plan, all that stuff, and you're basically trying to get healthy. So you could never play NFL football every day. Basketball, I think there's some rust that can develop. They play 3 or 4 games. Maybe it's just 2 or 3 games in a week. But if they were sitting for like 2 weeks, they would be rusty too. But baseball players, I think they got to play every day. I mean, you look at the pitches you got to hit, the timing, all that stuff. You got to stay sharp. And I do think, blame some of those teams. They weren't keeping everybody as sharp as they probably should have. The teams that had already clinched and had to sit and wait. Maybe they're taking it easy. I'm not saying they're doing that. I'm saying that it's possible. It's different playing for your life than playing for nothing. And I think some of those really good teams lose their edge. So then you have to point the finger at, well, the playoff system is broken. And I think they definitely need to change something. In the old days of baseball, you either won your entire league to go to the World Series or you didn't go. That's why it was such a big deal to win the pennant. I don't believe there was a playoff. It was, you had the American League champion, then you had the National League champion, and then they played in the World Series. Nobody else made wild cards. And then I think they eventually did divisions and had playoffs and stuff like that. And now with all these wild cards and buys, I think the buys is the problem. So what I think Major League Baseball should do is, I think it is exciting to have the more teams in it. And I think you should add, some more wild card teams to where you have 8 teams make the playoffs in each league. Yes, it waters down things, makes winning, or making it to the playoffs less incredible, less special. But hey, your team will be in it longer, It does suck when your team is out of it with a month left in the season, and you're just playing for next year. This way, more teams will be in it longer, and you won't have teams having to sit a week and losing their edge as the wild card round goes on. So you'd have your division winners as your top 3 seeds, and you'd have 5 wild cards, which seems crazy, but that's the only way you could do an 8-team playoff. And then you do it in the same in the National League. So the number 1 seeded team would have been Baltimore. They would have played the number 8 seeded team in the first round of the playoffs. And they're playing and getting through and to the next round. Will you still have upsets? Yes, but I think the better teams have a better chance of advancing if everybody's playing every day instead of sitting out the first week. So what do you guys think? It's hobby talk. I want to know, what do you guys think? is the Major League Baseball playoff system broken when you have all your good teams, the top teams that would have been battling it out in the ALCS and NLCS? They're gone. They're done. Now you have teams that were from wild card rounds, battling out for the World Series. Because as a sport, you do want your best teams to make it to the championship. I think everyone can agree to that. And it is cool once in a while you get a Cinderella story, but you still want the good teams to make it as a sport. Just like the Super Bowl wouldn't be any fun if it was like a wild card teams making it every year to the Super Bowl. It's fun because like the best against the best. And I think there is a hobby aspect to this because, I mean, the greatest players this year were not from these wild card teams. They were from the big time teams. And as fickle as the market is, those players from the Dodgers and the Orioles and the Braves, despite the amazing seasons they had, their season ending on a little fizzle out, and their card prices will go down. It's just the way this market works, What have you done for me yesterday is what, or today even, is how this market works. And all those eyeballs are going to be on the wild card teams, not on Ronald Acuna capping an amazing season, or Adley Rutschman and Gunnar Henderson winning big games. What do you guys think? Does it hurt the hobby to have this baseball system the way they have at the playoffs? I think it does. I mean, I still love it as a Rangers fan because my team is looking very good and was ready for the playoffs, where other teams probably weren't really quite as ready because they've already had everything clinched and had to just, wait for the thing to start. All right, let's hear your comments. Thank you for watching. Stay tuned for more videos. Go Rangers.